We have a government who they want us to make sure that we have all electric cars within 10 years. Quebec adopted the legislation way before it came out in Ottawa. We also have a government that is subsidizing heavily people who are transferring their consumption of gas and oil for their heating in their houses to make sure it's electricity. And now we're discovering that we have a shortage of electricity. Quebec having a shortage of electricity is like the Sahara Desert running out of sand. I mean, it makes no sense. We were the beavers of the world. Like, we have dams on every single river, and now we're running out of electricity.
In his quest for models to achieve a more autonomous province, the leader of the Conservative Party of Quebec, Éric Duhaime, recently visited Alberta to draw inspiration from its model. According to Mr. Duhaime, it is time to forge interprovincial alliances to strengthen autonomy in the face of the federal government.
There's something completely ridiculous that you guys here in Alberta are sending us, $12-13 billion a year in equalization payment because you guys are smart enough to exploit your oil and gas industry. And you're sending that to a province where our premier is saying that it's dirty oil here in Alberta, but he's taking the $13 billion check and he's doing, some press conferences to say that he's green, and he doesn't want to exploit, and he's having even a bill to ban the exploitation of natural gas in Quebec. So this hypocrisy needs to end.
It advocates for a new decentralized agreement to enhance provincial powers, particularly in immigration matters. In Quebec, despite challenges related to housing, inflation, and the healthcare system, the influx of immigrants and refugees continue to rise. Mr. Duhaime advocates specifically for the complete repatriation of immigration powers. Although Mr. Duhaime received nearly 13% of the vote in the 2022 election, he failed to secure a seat in the National Assembly. Nevertheless, he continues to fulfill his role as an opposition figure and proposes alternatives to address issues. Meanwhile, the government of François Legault is preparing a significantly deficit budget to be presented on May 12th. Why is the promotion of a more autonomous Quebec is important? What potential obstacles are there? Let's hear Mr. Duhaime tout on this matter.
Even those people, even if they say it's green energy now, they have huge problems with the environmentalists. The same ones that were applauding them when they were attacking oil and gas industry are now saying that, the dams, it's not good. And there's also the Aboriginals that have to be taken in consideration for those territories. So it's going to take at least 10 to 20 years if they want to build a single dam. So they're not going to be able to fulfill the gap between what the consumption and the production of what's going on in Quebec.
Well, I want actually the federal government to respect provincial rights. I want the federal government to respect the fundamental law of this country, the Constitution of Canada. The Fathers of Confederation, there's a reason why they created a confederation in Canada, not a unitarian state. It's because we have a great country, a large country, very diverse population, and what's going on here in French Quebec is very different than what's going on out west or what's going on in Newfoundland, and that's why provincial governments have so much powers, and we need to stop having the federal government to try to invade, thinking that Ottawa knows best. We have allies outside of Quebec. A lot of people outside of Quebec do agree with us on that, but unfortunately it's very tough to have an alliance altogether, and that's what I think I should work on. We need to build bridges with autonomists all across Canada, and I know there's a lot of them even outside of Quebec and in English Canada.
We know that Alberta is one of the models for you.
Yes.
What we can learn from Alberta?
Well, I really like what's going on in Alberta right now. I think Danielle Smith is doing a fantastic job in terms of autonomy. She adopted a bill on the sovereignty of Alberta within a United Canada, just like the Saskatchewan government next door adopted Saskatchewan First Act to make sure that they reinforce their right to exert their autonomy within their own territory. She challenged decisions of the federal government in front of the courts and won twice over the last year. The Saskatchewan government is now refusing to collect taxes, carbon taxes on its territory to protest Justin Trudeau's taxes. So I think those are great movements, are great initiatives to show their autonomy. And this is what I think should inspire Quebec right now.
You're trying to send a strong message to other premiers of other provinces to join you to make an inter-provincial agreement together. Why?
Well, because I think it's important as provincial premiers that they reinforce their powers and they reiterate how important it is to respect the Constitution of our country. Quebec is a great ally. And when they're doing that, also they're reinforcing Canadian unity because, you know, the centralists in Ottawa, the Liberals and the NDP are feeding the separatist movement right now. And there's a reason why the PQ is ahead in the polls right now in Quebec. It's because the federal government keeps centralizing and making sure that they're trying to grab all the powers from the Quebec government. It's creating a lot of tensions. And I think that this is not the Canada that all of us agreed on. It's a Canada of regions, it's a Canada decentralized, it's a confederation, and this is what we need to reinforce, and we need to tie, you know, to build bridges with all provinces who do agree with Quebec on such issues.
You were talking about repatriation of the immigration. Which kind of challenge you can face trying to repatriate the rights of the immigration?
Well, we need to do something. I mean, the Liberals, under the Liberals, the immigration, especially here in Quebec, went out of control. 55% of refugees right now arriving in Canada are coming to Quebec, and we're only 22% of the population. It's increasing the spending for the provincial government by $1 billion. Justin Trudeau is saying, I'm going to pay you back $100 million, which is 10% of what it's costing us right now. It's creating all sorts of crises. It's feeding the housing crisis, the shortage of people in schools, hospitals, kindergartens, and we need to solve that problem. And we do believe that Quebec should have the right to have more control about people coming within our territory because the immigration process right now is broken. Justin Trudeau has been saying, you know, to people all around the world, come over. Well, they've listened to him and now we're stuck with a huge problem. And to solve that, I think we need to have the provincial government to increase its power and control the population.
So we did talk about the problem with immigration in Quebec. What do you think the Bloc Québécois is doing for Quebec at the Parliament?
It's very surprising because the Bloc Québécois is supposed to be a separatist party first and foremost, and they've been in bed with Justin Trudeau and the Liberals for way too long. It's always funny to see that they're voting with the Liberals day after day after day, and they want to keep them in power. It's very surprising. I don't understand where the Bloc's going. I understand that they see the threat of Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives, but the fact that they're in bed with the Liberals, with the Trudeau Liberals, it's kind of it's very shameful because the raison d'être of the Bloc Québécois initially was to fight the centralist, liberal, Trudeauist vision of Canada, and nowadays they're supporting it and they're making sure we have no elections in the near future. It's surprising and very disappointing for many Quebecers. One of the reasons why the healthcare system is broken, our public finance are in the red, we have so much problem with our education system right now, and so on and so forth, is also because our political class for half a century in Quebec has been focusing on the constitutional issues. We need to stop thinking about the next referendum. We need to talk about the next generation and what we're going to give them as a healthcare system, as public debts, as the education system, as the kindergartens, as our roads, everything. I mean, we need to focus on what matters to Quebecers and stop being obsessed by a third referendum. The Liberals and the PQ in Quebec, they're only focusing on the next referendum. That's their only reason why they're politically involved. Well, this is not what people are looking for. They're looking for a competent government that will be able to provide them best services at a lower cost.
Do you think Quebecers are really eager to have a referendum?
Look, this is the Parti Québécois obsession, but right now I look at the polls and only 35% of Quebecers would vote for separation if there was a referendum today, which would be a historic low. It's lower than the two other referendums we had. So I don't know what we're going to gain. If we go into a third third referendum, it's going to be a defeat for everyone. Nobody's going to win out of that. We didn't win the first or the second referendum. Nobody won. We all lost time and money. It was a waste of time, a waste of money. And the last thing we need is to go back in a third referendum.
Don't forget to go over rebelfieldreports.com to help us and to support our independent journalism. Please go over rebelfieldreports.com and chip in, and thank you in advance for all your donation.